Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
What's up, Doom Nation? We are back once again, and you are listening to the Two Doom Men podcast. As always, your hosts are Skaggs and myself, the captain, and we have very special guests today. Skaggs, you want to introduce them?
Yes, sir. So we are back. I am back actually from Arizona. It's a beautiful state. I was out there for the weekend, and a house out there happens to have a couple more instances of the Patriot Podcast Network on its TVs. Let's just put it that way. And we are joined by another member of the Patriot Podcast Network, Alex Abernathy. How are you, my buddy?
I'm doing well, guys. I'm glad to talk to you. I've got to say, I was telling you guys before, I was just listening to your podcast last week with Janet. Elite podcast intro. I'm a huge fan of your intro.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's funny. That's Steven from Sergeant Samurai told us the same thing. Thank you.
Gotcha. I mean, it's very clear that one of you put in a ton of work into that. And so, yeah, I'm a big fan.
Oh my God, man. Let me tell you, like just making a 60-second like video like that could take you days. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. It's who is it? Samuel Rivera, who is friends with Garrett Goldsberry. I mean, the stuff that guy makes is just wild. He's always making those videos for Joe Rogan, and he made the new Sergeant Samurai intro that we kind of ripped off a little bit when we're doing our beer reviews now. It really is just, it's such a skill to do that stuff. It really is complicated and time consuming.
Yeah. That's why Skaggs does it and I don't.
And still, I don't have it, so I don't blame you.
Yeah.
So Alex, tell us about yourself, man. I know you are syndicated. I believe it's on 6 radio stations in the great state of Tennessee, is it not?
Yes, sir. So the way that it works is, well, I guess I can take you back a couple years ago. Yeah. So I started in radio, just doing sports, in college and whatnot. And then eventually I landed a job doing the local news during the Rush Limbaugh show in Knoxville, which of course was awesome and had a massive impact on my political beliefs. And then I was doing the local show after that as well. That turned into a more permanent job. And I did that for a few years. And eventually I was able to start hosting my show, just an hour each day, aptly called the Alex Abernathy Show. And we started doing it just on one station there in Knoxville, and it's grown from there. And like you said, we're on 6 stations across Tennessee right now. We podcasted out into 2 separate podcasts. So I usually spend about half the show talking national headlines and whatnot, and then about another half of the show talking whatever's going on in the state. And so then I send it out into 2 different podcast feeds. That way, if you're around the country, you can listen to the national one because you probably don't give a damn about what's going on in Tennessee. And then vice versa. We have some people that just enjoyed the Tennessee stuff and aren't really focused on what's going on nationwide. And of course, we have those people that listen too. But because it's on radio, a lot of your politicians are very old school. And so they don't necessarily recognize the podcast game as much, even though I honestly prefer the podcast game. But so I'm able to get a handful of politicians on. For example, we have Marsha Blackburn on the show probably about once a month. I've had Haggerty on. I had Joni Ernst come on, the senator from Iowa, and she told me all about how much she didn't like red flag laws and then voted in favor of a red flag law like 3 days later. So that one pissed me off. But yeah, it's pretty cool. We're able to get some cool interviews, but most of the time it's just me riffing.
That's awesome, man.
And kudos to you for just getting on there by yourself and just ranting and raving. Yeah, I'd be really off the tracks if it was just me on here. Yeah,
that is a skill too, man.
Yeah, it is.
That is. I can't do that. I need someone to talk to, or at least bounce my ideas off of. I can't just like sit here in front of a camera and just riff for a half an hour or so. It's just not my style. I don't know.
Yeah, so, I'd go off the rails real quick and get canceled.
What I like about shows like y'all's with multiple people is that you can riff and be funny. So I always struggle with I'll try and make a joke, but I have no idea if it'll land or not because there's nobody there to respond to my joke. So I'm just kind of hoping that it was funny, but in reality, I'm talking to a wall, so I have no idea if people are enjoying what I'm saying or not.
Yeah, that's true.
But congratulations on being syndicated and all your success with all your interviews with politicians and stuff. That's awesome. It's what we're all trying to do, and we all came together by the Patriot Podcast Network, which is just this amazing community that people need to go download and check out on your Roku device.
Definitely. Also, man, I find it interesting that you're in Tennessee. It's a really cool place. Chris and I have been before. We went for actually for my bachelor party couple of years ago to Nashville, which is just like an amazing, awesome spot. We're going to be going there again soon. For Labor Day. I don't know, man. Give me your what's your impression of Tennessee? I feel like it's kind of a place where conservative culture is being forged in a way.
Oh,
Reagan still reigns supreme out there.
Yeah, so I can rave about Tennessee for forever. First off, we are the second lowest tax state in the country. Only behind Alaska, which Alaska's weird because they do a lot of tax rebates back to their citizens from a lot of the state-owned oil barges. So in terms of states that don't give massive tax rebates to their citizens because of oil, we are the lowest tax state in the country, which is amazing. We have no income tax. In terms of the way we handled COVID, really, I understand that Ron DeSantis got a lot of the praise nationwide for being a very liberty-oriented governor. But if you compare the policies of Bill Lee in Tennessee, that's our governor, Ron DeSantis, Bill Lee did everything that Ron DeSantis did. And a lot of times he was about 2 weeks ahead of the curve of Ron DeSantis. He just didn't get the nationwide publicization for it because he's not looking at a 2024 presidential run.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I do tend to believe that Tennessee really is a bastion of liberty. Memphis, I think, is a stain on Tennessee. Just if you look at any type of poverty numbers or crime numbers across the country and compare states, you'll see that Tennessee will fall in the middle. But then if you go and you take out Memphis, which of course is the most liberal area of the state of Tennessee, all of a sudden Tennessee ranks in the top tier in terms of low poverty rates, low crime, and everything. So yeah, I have a bit of a disdain for Memphis. It's a cool cultural city, not a cool political city. But in terms of Tennessee, yeah, I think we are a fantastic state.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice.
I've been to Memphis when I was a kid. I went to Graceland with my mom. And I mean, this was in the 90s, maybe like around 2000, I think. And I remember even as a kid, even back then, it did not look like a great place to live. It did not look safe. It looked like a low income, crime ridden place, to be honest with you. I remember that was maybe 20 years ago at this point. So
yeah,
interesting.
I still haven't been to Graceland. I just watched the new Elvis movie a couple weekends ago, and now I want to go to Graceland so bad.
Yeah, Chris, you were telling me about that. You really like that, right?
It was a good movie. My parents' wedding song was Can't Help But Falling in Love with You. And they were all part of the Elvis era. He was, the big celebrity back then. So it was nice to get to take them to, the Alamo Draft House and get, order them a good dinner and show them that movie. So they had a good time. It was, most of the time it was me holding my mother down in her chair from getting up and dancing in the middle of the movie theater. But,
what a good boy.
Yeah. Gotta try. My big takeaway for Tennessee, I loved Nashville. I really did. Great party town. The two things I took away is everybody likes to drink and everybody loves their guns, man. Oof, boy, like I never seen a group of people so proud to be like, yeah, we don't call 911. We got 1911. Like just no fucks given, man.
So I just moved back to Nashville. I grew up in Nashville, moved to Knoxville, went to college there, and then spent a few years there after college working in radio. And then since I started doing this show, I'm able to kind of do it from wherever. So I just moved back to Nashville. And yeah, something I learned very quickly after coming back by going and meeting with a couple groups in town was that the lowest crime weekend ever recorded in downtown Nashville was a weekend in 2015 when the NRA convention was in town. It's so fitting.
Yeah.
What to say, right? An armed society is a polite society.
Exactly.
I don't know how many times that has to be explained to people before they start getting it. New York City might
couple of more times.
Chapter out of that book.
Yeah.
So,
all right,
yeah, go ahead.
I mean, this has been an insane news week, and it's only Wednesday, which is crazier.
It started on Monday, right?
Yeah. Where do we want to start, with Trump or the IRS?
I don't know. Do we want to start with the boring stuff first, or the exciting stuff?
Let's start with the IRS because that's going to be old news relatively quickly, and then we'll pizzazz people with the Trump's raid.
It's important, obviously, right?
It is.
So, Alex, you did an entire episode on this, which I just listened to today. It was very interesting. I thought we'd start off though with a tweet. It won't be one of our tweets of the week. We do have some of those, but I think we get started with a tweet. And this tweet is from my good friend, who I've mentioned on the show many times, from the state of Connecticut, the master gaslighter, Chris Murphy. And Chris Murphy goes on to say, he tweets the other day on August 2nd, he goes, "Of course, Republicans don't like the Inflation Reduction Act. It eliminates tax loopholes for billionaires and corporations. It cuts profits for drug companies and oil companies in order to get lower drug costs and energy costs. Republicans don't support these things. I have called him the master gaslighter for a couple months now, and he's only gotten periodically worse. He seems to be like the most programmable NPC Democrat bot that exists, Chris Murphy. Alex, what do you think, man? This is the talking point for the establishment Democrats that, Republicans bad because they don't want to do these nice things that we've put in the bill.
These things that we sound like we want to do.
So what I hadn't seen that tweet before, but what stuck out to me was where he celebrated the fact that they want to cut profits for, was it profits for the gas for the drug and the oil companies? I mean, why would we celebrate this? Profits are a good thing in a free market because without profits, these companies have zero incentive to provide more of that product. Now, in terms of the oil companies, I mean, I do think that is the Democrat intention, is for them to not profit and for them to go under. I mean, even Joe Biden has been pretty open about that one.
Yeah.
But for drug companies, they continue to push the idea that we need more drugs. We need more affordable drugs. But, oh, by the way, you shouldn't be allowed to profit off of those drugs, which, of course, at the end of the day, all that's going to do is drive down the incentive to produce the drugs. For example, in Canada, just last year, there were 400 new drugs that were approved to be used in the country, and only 25 of them are actually being used in Canada because they have the single-payer healthcare system that won't pay market value. So the other 375 drugs, the company said, we can't make any money if we provide you these drugs. Therefore, Canadians are going without them. So Canadians are going with, sure, they have free healthcare, but they have shit healthcare because they're not getting provided the type of drugs that they need. And that's exactly what the Democrats are wanting to do here.
Yep. Yeah. You had said something pretty interesting on your episode about this, where they're going to cut the price. They're going to cut the cost of medication and the prices of, these drugs. And then you were like, yeah, but the government's just going to find like the cheapest bidder. And we're going to get, prices are going to come down, but so is the quality of the drugs. So people are just going to stay sick longer, not get the quality of care that they need. That one really took me back.
And they're trying to do it with insulin. And it, as far as I'm aware, the insulin portion, the insulin amendment didn't pass in this bill. But I mean, Democrats are pissed about it. And what we've seen is that price caps historically fail every single time. We tried it in the 70s with gas, and it caused shortages in gas. It caused long lines. It caused black markets, etc. And by the way, it's not just the Democrats proposing this. Donald Trump also proposed a $35 cap on insulin prices. And I was not a fan of it when he proposed it. And I'm definitely not a fan of it when Democrats propose it either. And so I always use the example of if you owned a mattress store. It's like if you own a mattress store and your average mattress is going for like $400, and then the government comes along and says, well, we're going to cap your prices at $350 because everybody needs a mattress. You're going to stop selling mattresses because there's no more market incentive for you to do so because you've got to make your margins. And Spike Cohen, I know you guys have some libertarian leanings on this show.
I have a point on here about Spike Cohen for you.
Okay. So he tweeted, I don't know if we have the same tweet, but he tweeted and said, the government introduces a price cap on a product. Libertarians then say that will reduce the supply of the product, causing shortages and forcing people to go without or buy it for more. Then the experts turn around and tell us, oh, no, it won't do that. And then the shortages do happen. And then the experts turn around and say, well, no one could have possibly seen that coming. And it's just a constant cycle.
Yeah, it really is, man. I mean, me and Chris, we're not economics experts by any stretch of the imagination, right? But we were saying a year ago, like I was talking to Chris on the side about investments and whatnot. I'm like, man, like an insane amount of inflation is coming. And, how many articles have there been about, oh, no one saw this coming. No one saw this coming. Well, no, a lot of people saw this coming, right? It's just these powers that be, the media, et cetera. They're not ever covering it, or I don't know, man. It's odd. Go ahead.
There was something that I'll never forget when we were at your house on November 3rd on election night, Skaggs. Tucker was talking about how like Trump was up in the numbers, and he was like, how did every poll and every news station get it so wrong? How was every poll having Joe Biden in the lead blah, 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 you know, and Trump failing. And at the moment, obviously, at the moment in time, Trump had the huge lead before the 3 a.m. dump fest that took place. It's the same thing here with inflation, where, oh, inflation is not coming. Even till today, a coworker pointed out an article today on how Joe Biden's still talking about like the economy's doing great. It's wild that like across the board, anything they don't want you to know, no one ever saw this coming. It's not coming. It's not coming. Oh, we didn't see it coming. It's any facet of society. They do this to us. They do this to us.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Alex? There seems to be like this culture within government now, just completely ignore reality, and they just make up their own. It's very Orwell-like, 1984. What is your take on all that?
Yeah, we saw, I think you were just kind of mentioning it there a second ago, just today with the inflation numbers coming out, the inflation numbers showed 8.5% inflation year over year. And then you've got Joe Biden and Karine Jean-Pierre, who is comically bad at her job.
A joke in herself.
Both coming out and saying we saw 0% inflation. And the number that they're referencing is from July or from June to July, because the July numbers came out today. They were both 8.5% inflation. So they're saying, oh, we saw zero inflation. It's partially, it's just kind of, I know Ben Shapiro uses the phrase a lot, whistling past the graveyard, which is precisely what they're doing. But it's also another example of redefining what exactly is inflation. And we've seen them redefine every other word under the sun. So, hey, why not just redefine inflation as well?
Yeah, I think we should redefine the word, you know, insurrection, and everybody's a hero now.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. But before we get too far away from it, I want to talk about Spike Cohen real quick. And we were talking about just now how we're not we're not experts, and you know, a lot of people saw this coming while they're all saying that no one saw it coming, right? I feel like one of the groups of people who always see stuff like this coming is libertarians. They seem to have a really good understanding of economics and monetary theory, things like that. That's where I get a lot of my information and knowledge on economics from guys like Spike Cohen. So you did say you thought he might be running for president in 2024 as the Libertarian Party nominee. And you said that, you know, he needs to take himself a little more serious, and he's kind of a joke in of himself right now. I don't know. Why wouldn't you say that about Spike Cohen?
Because whenever he was first trying to get his name on the board, or right when he was being, I guess, nominated as the Libertarian vice presidential candidate, the first interview he does, he goes on and does it shirtless. And he does it shirtless just as a joke. And every interview I've listened to him, it's just, don't get me wrong, I love a good sense of humor, but I feel like he uses a little too much humor and gets away from actual issues. Because I think he's super intelligent, especially economically. I think he's got a lot of economic information. He knows the data. He understands the power of a free market. But he almost jokes about it too much to the point where I can't even take him seriously. Really? Now, he's a good juxtaposition from Joe, oh God, what was her name? The Libertarian president.
Grandma Libertarian. Yeah. Joe Jorgensen. Yes.
Joe Jorgensen, because she was too serious. She came to Knoxville and I went and saw her speak and I wanted to just kill myself.
Yeah.
But she was too serious and he was overly not serious. I would love to see the Libertarians either make Spike Cohen slightly more serious, but still keep his personality, or put somebody forward that's a nice mix of the two.
Interesting. Yeah. As an outsider looking in, dealing with the Libertarian Party as much as Skaggs and I do, you know, I've gotten right in there and just go, why can't this entire party fucking just market itself correctly? It's the final piece of the puzzle. And I get what you're saying with, you know, we got one candidate that is joking too much and the other candidate that's too serious. There's still this limbo that they're in of this poor PR marketing campaign that they just can't get down. And I've been saying it for a while now, even though we're looking at 2024, they need to start now. Because now that I've gained such an education in the Libertarian Party and have made contacts in the party and spoken to, you know, candidates and stuff, I go out there and I explain like, oh, libertarianism to people, and they got no idea what I'm talking about. None whatsoever.
But most of them, I guarantee, would probably agree with most of your principles.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the problem. If there's just someone well put, and I'm pretty sure Skaggs is going to say Dave Smith, and I don't disagree because the guy is a fantastic human being. There just needs to be this better, stronger marketing campaign across all platforms with some golden child from the Libertarian Party. And I think once that message gets out there, a lot of people are going to be like, oh shit, there's a third option and this one doesn't sound too bad.
So I've had this conversation with people before about the Libertarian Party, and I'm not super in tune with exactly the inner workings of the Libertarian Party. I understand the Mises Caucus and everything, but I'm not following it as closely as you guys are.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that the Libertarian Party would benefit by not running someone for president and instead taking that money, and because they spent a lot of money shipping Joe Jorgensen all around the country, and instead spending that money and focusing more on local races, maybe even just a congressional seat, or maybe your county commissioner, your county mayor? My county mayor in Knoxville was a Libertarian. Glenn Jacobs runs as a Republican, but everybody knows he's a Libertarian. Do you think the Libertarian Party would be better served doing that now, and then eventually coming back and running in presidential races?
No, because I think once you lose ballot access, you're in big trouble. It's hard to get it back. And I think you could also walk and chew gum at the same time, right? One thing I've learned from talking to libertarians and listening to them a lot too is they don't really give a shit about the party winning anything. They're not in it for like, yay, we won and now our name is in charge. The real core focus and idea is to get the idea, libertarianism, to people and change culture and change people's minds and things like that. They don't care if they're in charge. It's actually very antithetical to libertarians to crave power and want to rule over everybody and win a political seat. It's almost like that's one of the problems, in my opinion, why they have such a hard time marketing
what hamstrings them,
because it's antithetical to libertarianism. Do you remember when we were at the Connecticut convention?
Jesus, yeah.
And there was a lot of times where they were trying to ask, like, does someone want to run for this and someone want to run for that, and nobody wanted to do it. Right? Everybody wanted to like talk about it and get into ideology and stuff and theory, but people don't want to actually get into that stuff. They want to be left alone for the most part. So I think that is one of the built-in kind of hurdles of the Libertarian Party and libertarianism.
Yeah, from my perspective, I agree with you, Alex. I do. I think it would be smarter if we were to get, a state representative or even a governor or a mayor, a libertarian governor or mayor or something in a blue or a red state. I don't think it would really matter, to start showing like, wow, look how good New York is doing now that they went libertarian, now that they're under this new libertarian rule. But I also think that, going back to their marketing problem, I think that's something they should have been doing over the past X number of years, 10, 20, whatever years. Because right now in the 2020 election and the 2024 election, the country has never been more divided than it has been now. And this is striking when the iron's hot. This is their golden opportunity to take a divided nation and be like, we have a third option, and just get the guy in there at the highest, seat available.
Yeah. And I don't know if I was necessarily making a point more so than just posing the question. And it stems from, I mentioned my county mayor back in Knox County was Glenn Jacobs. And if you're a WWE fan, that's Kane from WWE. And
yes,
he won county mayor, and his popularity has exploded nationally, but especially across the state, to the point where I think Bill Lee is up for re-election in this election cycle. He's going to get reelected by a landslide. But then when he's out on term limits, I think the odds-on favorite right now to be the next governor would be Glenn Jacobs. And so that's where you would see that libertarian stepping stone of going from a county mayor, blowing up in popularity from there, then stepping up, becoming a governor. And then who knows what could happen from that point. I don't know what his political aspirations are. Pretty sure he does want to run for governor, but I have no idea if he'd have any interest in stepping into a Senate seat or what by that point. But I think he'd be the odds-on favorite for basically any seat he wants in Tennessee.
Yeah, I think that's even kind of what Larry Sharp, who we spoke to, who's running for governor of New York State, says. Like, a goal should be a realistic goal. It should be a goal of like, let's get some gold on the map somewhere, right? Because when they show that map on CNN, someone's going to be like, what the fuck is that? What's that little gold piece in New Hampshire, right? Like, what is that? And it'll spark some thoughts, maybe. Or something.
We hope.
Yeah. Again, too, like a big thing I'm all about too is, and you know, the Patriot Podcast Network has a bunch of different people with different opinions and whatnot. We're not an echo chamber. And anyway, as Alan says, is I don't really care again, like if who wins. I want liberty to win, right? And I think we all need to work together for that stuff. That includes libertarians, conservatives, America First people, the Republican Party, MAGA crowd. I don't really give a shit. I don't give a shit what you like, what hat you wear, right? Are you on my fucking side? Are you on the side of like liberty and freedom and opposing this insane shit the left has now just, you know,
yeah,
I don't even know how to explain it. This Orwellian behavior from the left. We have to all work together, right? Otherwise, we're gonna get fucked like we are right now. Every month, another thing occurs. You know, like this inflation bill, right? $700 billion, right? What is it? Is it $700 billion or is it really $400 billion?
700 billion. I believe there was 380 billion that went towards essentially just green energy.
It's amazing.
I just can't. It's when is the dam going to break for me sometimes, right? Because I know you were even like, you know, it's not the end of the world compared to the Build Back Better bill, which was $2 trillion, right? But it's 700 billion on top of, you know, 85 billion to Ukraine. I think they gave Ukraine another billion last week too.
That weapons package.
Yeah, it just seems like they're constantly just Federal Reserve, print it, ship it out, print it, ship it out, and inflation's going up. And they're done. All of the remedies that they come up with are not actually remedies for this problem.
Yeah,
well, and there's no chance this bill actually reduces inflation either. I mean, I'm sure you've heard the stat from the CBO that any inflationary reduction measures won't go into effect until 2030, and even those measures will account for a rounding error to zero in terms of inflation reduction. And in the meanwhile, the Tax Foundation says that from 2023 to 2025, this will actually increase inflation because of the $700 billion in spending. And I mean, even Bernie Sanders agrees with this. I don't know. Can I play a clip and it'll come through for you guys?
I have it right here. I'll play.
Okay,
I had it queued up. I had a feeling you were going to mention. I have it here. Let's see if I can get it. This thing is blocking me as always. I hate this thing. This Zoom thing always gets in the way. Hang on. Let's go do it first. I got it from, I don't really like Jack Posobiec that much, but I like what he changed his name to on Twitter. He changed himself now to MAGA Warlord Poso, I guess after Monday's thing. So this is Bernie Sanders the other day.
I'm going to take a moment to say a few words about the so-called Inflation Reduction Act that we are debating this evening. And I say so-called, by the way, because according to the CBO and other economic organizations who have studied this bill, it will in fact have a minimal impact on inflation. I'm going to take a moment to say a few words.
I think you mentioned this, Alex, that Bernie's reasoning here is that, in a sense, they're not spending enough in order to curtail inflation. Did I understand you right in your episode the other day?
Yeah, so that clip goes on for another couple of minutes, and he goes on to explain what we really need to do is we really need to tackle all the issues that Americans are facing. We need universal health care. We need to spend money on universal child care. And it just goes on to the trillions of dollars that he wants to spend. So he says this isn't going to do anything for inflation. Therefore, the solution is not the Republican solution of let's not pass anything because we don't need to spend any more money. Instead, it's this Keynesian economic theory of, well, it's going to inflate anyway, so we might as well just blow out the inflation. So he agrees that this bill sucks, but he still voted for the bill, and he has totally different reasons for why the bill sucks.
Yeah, it's I mean, and that's the ideology, I guess, for say of socialism. I used to be a Bernie bro, right? I used to think, in my opinion, that it was a reappropriation of the budget, right, into a more moral spending of money.
Yeah,
and then as I got into libertarianism, and I woke the fuck up, I realized that's what it is, right? There's no such thing as it's just more. It's just more and more and more. There's no limit to how much they want to spend and whatnot. They'll bankrupt every single man, woman, and child until we have nothing. It's you have to, in order for there to be shit, you have to make shit, right? Like printing money and just handing it to people doesn't build anything, doesn't make anything. And if we do everybody will starve.
Yeah, they should just mint a gold coin with an asterisk on it and be like, today this is worth $90 billion. Oh, no, we need it to be $1 trillion. Now it's worth $1 trillion. It doesn't matter at this point. So you actually just said something that what has caught my eye the most, and Alex, I want to pick your brain, get your perspective on it, is Skaggs just said they will bankrupt every man, woman, and child. The IRS is growing by 87,000 new employees, and they're arming these employees too, and all in an effort to do a huge uptick in auditing American citizens, and the middle and lower class are going to take the biggest beating. Can I get some explanation here? What the fuck is going on? This is ridiculous.
So, okay. So what exactly of that? Because there's a lot in that. What exactly are you wanting me to hit on?
Why are they arming the IRS? Okay, I understand. I get why we're hiring 87,000 of them so we can audit more people. Let's start with why are they being armed? How about that? And then we can get into.
I mean, in terms of the rationale for why they're being armed, I cannot personally rationalize it other than the fact that they are going to crack down harder on tax code. And if you are in violation of a tax code, well, they're more willing to use the government gun and the force of the government gun on you. That would be the explanation.
Yeah,
Cap.
They're going to do something.
People,
yeah,
I was going to say, of all people, you understand guns more than anybody,
I
right?
do,
Where does
power
really reside? Right behind the
yes,
trigger.
they're planning
weapon,
to do
right?
something that we would fight them over. What it really comes down to, and I was wondering if like there is this bigger explanation to why all of a sudden.
I have a little insight, honestly. I was talking to a tax professional recently, and they were telling me how the IRS is like very behind in terms of like their workload the past couple of years because of COVID and all the restrictions and whatnot, and just government's just normally inefficient anyway. So they're just way behind. A lot of the workforce of the IRS has been working from home. I had a situation, I won't get into how or where, but back in March, I requested something from the IRS, and I got a letter last week saying, we received your request for more information. We can provide you with a response in 30 to 60 days. So it's now August. I sent this request in March. They send me a response in August saying, we could probably answer your question in October or something like that. So that's where the IRS is at right now. Seems like if you want to be the IRS, you really do need 87,000 more people, and you're going to start chasing down taxes from people. I don't know. Yeah. That's my general.
And they're spending what, $8 billion on it. I think was the number, or maybe I'm off. Maybe it's 80 billion. It's something with an
huge amount.
Yeah, it's an absurd amount.
But so now they're gonna crack down on people making money off of like cryptocurrency and checking your Venmo account and shit, like the real nitty gritty stuff. Like you sell a couch on Facebook Marketplace for $601, you're getting taxed. Is that all accurate, or am I just picking up stuff from Instagram?
I mean, in that scenario, so I'm just thinking, I mentioned to you guys before the start of the show that I'm a small business owner, and I understand that I have a lot of independent contractors that do work for me. And with that, I don't have to 1099 them at the end of the year and send that off to the IRS unless I pay them $600 or more. So that's when your independent contractor type labor laws start to come in. So I guess in theory, yeah, if you sell something on Facebook Marketplace, that is technically an independent contractor type of transaction. So yeah, if it's over $600, that would be something that the IRS would want you to report.
It'd be interesting to kind of do an accounting of this later, right? Because how much did we say they're spending?
It's 80 billion. I just checked.
Billion, right? That's a gigantic investment, right? Like, wouldn't most places, if you're going to spend 80 billion, you want to turn a profit, right? That means they'd have to make at least like 160 billion or something off of this $80 billion investment, right? Like, how are they going to do that? Yeah, are they going to really? You know what I'm trying to say? Like
the guns.
Yeah. The guns. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, we should keep an eye on that going forward. Like, were they even able to turn a profit on this $80 billion investment? Yeah. And how did they do it?
And Skaggs, you made a point earlier about how inefficient the government is. Think about how hilarious this is, that the government even sucks at taking your money.
Yeah.
Like any business, the most important thing is getting paid. I have a client that owes me $1,500 right now. And right before we started this Zoom call, I was on his ass like, hey, this is collections. This is the most important part of the business. The government can't even do that efficiently. It is
Yeah,
the most
right.
important part of any business. The government can't even do it.
Yeah, they're going to probably literally send a guy with a gun to your house and knock on a door and, you know, burn the gas and spend his whole day at work instead of sending you like a Venmo request or something like that, like you should do for your person, or like I do for my my gardener here at the house.
Yeah, they're going to be going into people's houses and breaking their piggy banks open. Yes. Give me that 17 cents.
Good luck with that.
It's,
dangerous, interesting times. So let's switch gears here, man. Let's talk about Mar-a-Lago. As most people in the country know, on Monday this week, the FBI raided the Mar-a-Lago estate where Donald Trump lives. I'm aware that the official narrative put out by the FBI or whoever is that they are trying to get documents that Trump left the White House. When he left the White House, he took them with him to Mar-a-Lago. I know that's kind of been like a discussion or ongoing talking point between him and the National Archives, that he had these documents. No one really know. At least I don't know what these documents are even about. And he's been raided over it. I mean, this is the first time a president this has occurred to a president, as far as I'm aware, in his home. One comment I can make is I'm pretty surprised at the reaction from everybody. This was not popular, and it didn't really, this was popular, of course, amongst like the hardcore lefties, the shit libs.
Yeah, people still watching CNN.
Yeah, but this was really not popular. Like a lot of just normies were like, "What the fuck?" You know, like this is just weird and just getting out of control. What did you guys think? What did you think about this?
I'll let Alex go because I just have nothing but conspiracies.
Oh, I can't wait for that. I mean, I guess I'll just clear it up first, because you're right. It's super foggy for exactly what they were doing, what they were searching for. And I've seen a lot of people conflate it. And I'm sure you'll probably mention the Andrew Cuomo tweet later, but even Andrew Cuomo, I think, has kind of conflated this a little bit in that Donald Trump is technically at the center of two separate investigations by the DOJ right now. And one is about the election and January 6th, so on and so forth. But the other one, which hasn't gotten as much publicity until right now, is this investigation that's been spurred on by the National Archives in regards to the documents that he took from the White House to Mar-a-Lago. What was classified? Did he declassify them? Are they properly concealed? And so on and so forth. So it's actually, even though people are conflating them into the same investigation, they're two very separate investigations. And this raid is about the second one, the National Archives one. So this one, even though people are saying it's, January 6th, stolen election, so on and so forth. And this has nothing to do with January 6th at all. Could the action maybe have been spurred by the public pressure that came about because of the January 6th hearing and Democrats there? Sure. So maybe they're not totally separated, but in the eyes of the DOJ, they are.
I think the conflation is the goal, right? Because anyone hears FBI raid on a place, and that's like a negative connotation, of course, right? Like you got your house FBI raided, that means you're probably a criminal or something. That's just a general thing. So I think the goal honestly was a conflation, right? And it's, let's see what happens. I mean, Chris, maybe I'll leave the conspiracy theory stuff up to you. You picked one of my tweets of the week too, Andrew Cuomo. Let's show it real quick. Like I was gonna say, let's show it real quick what you're talking about. So this will burn one of my tweets of the week, but from Andrew Cuomo, the Department of Justice must immediately explain the reason for its raid, and it must be more than a search for inconsequential archives, or it will be viewed as a political tactic and undermine any future credible investigations and legitimacy of January 6th investigations. That shocked me, man. Let me tell you that he tweeted.
I got two things on that. One, the way I'm taking it from his point of view is that he's really banking on like January 6th, this, investigation into January 6th being Trump's real nail in the coffin. So like, this is something that like is obviously widely unpopular. At the time, he recognized it was going to be unpopular. And now he's worried that this is going to harm anybody's view of the January 6th committee, because that's what he's banking on. Conspiracy side of me is there's something up about this raid. I don't think everyone, either there's a new disconnect or people are no longer part of the deep state or whatever it could be. I don't think people on the left knew that this was going to take place. the little establishment NWO email that goes out each morning that says A, B, and C is what's going to happen today. And I know there's not really, the World Economic Forum bulletin of the day did not have Donald Trump getting rated on it. All right. And I really think that either some power shift took place, or whatever. I don't think a lot of people who are on the inside knew this was going to go down, which brings up so many more suspicions. But go on.
So do you think Joe Biden knew that it was going to go down?
Yeah,
yes.
100%. 100%.
I think.
I think whoever controls Joe Biden knew it was going to go down. They just told Joe in passing. They probably he's like, okay, change my diaper and give me chocolate ice cream.
And they forgot 5 minutes after.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to Cuomo, I think there's a little bit of self-preservation perhaps as well in that tweet, right? Let's not forget that this guy is responsible for the death of over 10,000 senior citizens in the state of New York, and he has not faced any justice whatsoever. When you've committed a crime such as that, the last thing you want to see is federal agents knocking on the door of politicians, right? So perhaps that has something to do with him taking kind of in a weird way the side of, objective reality. Let's just put it that way. He's looking out for his own ass. He doesn't want the political elite to be persecuted, right? Because that mean that he'd be fair game as well. Not really, because he's a Cuomo and he's, Democrat, but there might have been some aspect to that, in my opinion, at least. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'll let you guys handle the Cuomo stuff. You know him better than I do. I mean, you can go buy his book for $35 at Barnes & Noble if you want to.
Is that even still being sold, man?
I don't know. I saw it like a year ago. I was in a Barnes & Noble and I saw American Crisis and I almost croaked when I saw it was $35.
Yeah, who's paying that, man?
Apparently nobody. Didn't the book dealer lose tons of money on that deal?
Oh, yeah. Nobody was going to buy it anyway. They put that stuff out there to launder money at the end of the day. It's a very good point that he's just trying to preserve his own ass as well, because he could be on the chopping block. But once again, as you say, he's on the right side of the political aisle. So as long as it's a Republican problem, the Democrats won't care. It's an interesting tweet. That's why somebody like him saying that sparks the conspiracy theorist in me. You know what I mean? Because usually that's a toe the line guy. He guilty as charged and will double down. You know what I mean? Like
they burned him though, they burned his ass because it wasn't politically expedient anymore. Being a homosexual isn't popular anymore.
My earlier statement of he's not part of the deep state anymore. There's been a shift. People getting kicked out. People's days are numbered, and he didn't know. He didn't get that World Economic Forum bulletin in the morning.
Could be,
So
question I have for you out here, Alex, is now this raid that they've apparently taken documents, right? And if anybody knows pieces of paper in boxes, usually tens of thousands of them, right? Who knows what paper is what? Did they really sit there the whole night and go through every single piece of paper and make sure
they were there for 10 hours,
right?
Unsupervised?
Really? Okay. All right. So 10 hours is a long time, but still, I mean, I don't know. You're going to go through every piece of paper for 10 hours and know exactly which ones you get. Can they try and maybe they find nothing of interest, right, from the archives case, but maybe they find something else that has nothing to do there. Would they legally be allowed to say they got some paper that outlines the whole insurrection plot? It's all there. It's all true. All the Democrats' conspiracies.
Signed by Q.
Right. Signed by QAnon, something like that. Would they be able to then turn around and use that? Or is this a situation where like they had a warrant for a specific thing? And if they found something else, they can't really use that.
To be completely honest with you, I don't know 100%. From my understanding is that it has to do with the Presidential Records Act of 1978, right? Which a bunch of people are acting like they're experts in. I'm not expert. I'm not an expert. I'm not even going to pretend like I am.
How many Presidential Records Act experts there are.
Yeah.
Give me a few minutes.
Exactly. I mean, they didn't even raid Richard Nixon over the Presidential Records Act. So, I mean, if you're not going to raid Nixon, what are you doing here? But from what I've seen, I mean, clearly it has to do with, as I was saying earlier, what documents he brought, whether or not they were classified. He does have the power to declassify them before he leaves office. Did he declassify them? And from reading legal analysis on both sides of the aisle, even the analysis on CNN are like, yeah, I mean, there's really nothing here that you can charge Trump with. If the DOJ were to charge Trump with something, it would have to be something super specific that they were looking for and that they found. And once again, that's because presidents have the ability to declassify these documents before leaving the White House. So they would have to first prove that he failed to declassify them. And then they would also have to prove intent, because that's another portion of the law. So they would have to prove that he willfully broke the law. And I mean, it's super hard to prove intent with any crime. So even if he were charged, none of this looks like it could legally prevent him from doing something like running for president again, which really just tells me a lot of this investigation is just a political show and a political threat.
There you go.
Yeah.
As what you were saying to say, what was your full question again, Skaggs? Like, if they find other stuff, can they legally charge him?
Unrelated, right? Like, you know, like you have a warrant for coke in someone's house.
What I
go in and
remember
find
of,
weed.
you know, the 1,000,001 criminal justice classes I took and stuff. So the warrant was kept private, and Trump's lawyers weren't even allowed to go into Mar-a-Lago to watch the FBI to see if you show up with a warrant and say, I'm here to pick up A, B, and C, you go in and, you know, you search, obviously, because I could tell you, yes, A, B, and C is in drawer number 1, and hide the rest of C in drawer number 2. Yes, that's why you do the search warrant and you raid the place. Got it. But you cannot charge them when they find D, whether D is incriminating evidence or not. So if you're on trial and, you know, your cell phone is evidence in this trial, and you have a voicemail proving that you're innocent, but then you have pictures of you committing a stabbing, which is a different crime, they're not trying you for the stabbing. They don't care about that. They're only focused on the one thing. But in this situation, I fully believe the reason why they have the X number of boxes full of paper, everything's on USB ports and stuff like that. You know, I truly believe either A, they're looking to plant stuff, or B, they're trying to figure out his plans and his future goals and stuff like that. And C, whatever else they could get him on, they will try and get him on, whether they have to start a new investigation on that specific topic and then go, oh, look, well, we already have the evidence. I wouldn't put cycle. We are, you know, we call our listeners members of Doomed Nation. Like, this is unprecedented. This is like a dangerous, dark time. Like,
you're not even being hyperbolic there. I mean, literally, it's unprecedented. I believe this has occurred.
This is in, like, the result of this could be anything, absolutely anything. They could find him guilty and there could be another January 6th. They could find him innocent and then there could be a full-blown revenge reckoning that travels through Congress that isn't going to fix anything either. You know, all of a sudden, you know, November's election is going to become about revenge instead of who's, you know, and so it's a very scary, dangerous time. And also, I think they're using this to cover up the, you know, and take up all the media airwaves so people don't truly understand what went down in the Inflation Act that we just passed, because everybody still believe, well, the sheep still believe that Joe Biden's not going to raise taxes on anyone who makes over $400,000 a year. Meanwhile, if you listen to Mr. Alex Abernathy's last episode about it, you learn extremely quickly. I listened to it at the gym and I learned extremely quickly that, yeah, no, we are fucked. They are going to screw us royally with this bill.
Oh, so, 100%. I do have a question for you, because I think you clearly know a lot more about this from a criminal justice standpoint than I do. Could they, so, you know, Trump he pled the fifth today in his deposition in New York. He's going to be deposed God knows how many other times. Could the DOJ go through these files and then sometime down the road, if he goes to a deposition and he doesn't plead the fifth and he does speak, say he says something either untrue or seemingly untrue there, could they then go pull one of these files that they claimed in this raid and say, oh, no, you were lying, and here's the evidence that you were lying? Is this something?
Right, but that evidence would have to be pertinent to what that warrant was for. Okay, so the whole big thing that has the conspiracy community in an uproar is that you know, there's they're trying to force the DOJ to make this warrant public, because once that warrant goes public, all of us in here could read it, and then we could see that they were searching for nuclear codes. They were searching for A, B, C, whatever A, B, and C is. But if D comes up later down the road in one of these depositions, it's an inadmissible evidence. They can't use it against them. But we are now in this new justice system, this two-tier justice system that we've never seen before, where, I mean, let's just look at what happened January 6th. A grandma walking through the Capitol building is put in solitary confinement, but Stephen Colbert's producer is arrested doing the exact same thing, and no charges are being pressed.
Yeah.
So we're in this new form of what happened.
It's all contingent upon them giving a fuck about the rules, which they obviously don't, or the Constitution.
So legally, from the bit that I do know, it wouldn't be admissible evidence in court. But this new justice system that we have, it's a free for all. We can do what we want.
Before we started, I saw that an article came out saying breaking judge orders DOJ responds to request to make the Mar-a-Lago warrant public. So I do think that is important, right? Because then we have an accounting of what was supposed to be found or not. So if some other random thing comes out, we could be like, hey, obviously you weren't, that you took that and you weren't supposed to get there looking for that. I'm of the opinion, though, I don't think they even actually needed to have found anything. They could print a fucking piece of paper in Quantico and be like, hey, we found this in the raid, right? What did I say before? A box of papers could have tens of thousands of papers in it. The administration might not even know, right? Is every paper...
Trump already said, he already had mentioned that it's so possible. And, you know, the media will play into it and his supporters will play into it. And around this nut job carousel goes. You know, how easy would it be to plant evidence? The FBI is not a trustworthy organization. Okay, we can go back and forth about January 6th and all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. But the FBI plotted to kidnap Governor Whitmer. How do you say it? Whitmer?
Yeah.
Whitmer. Okay, that's a true story. It's a real thing. The FBI tried to kidnap a governor.
Yeah, or at least
they're not
kidnapping. Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're not, it's not beneath them to plant, you know, evidence to find the most hated man in politics guilty. I mean, we've started wars for less.
Yeah. And the executive branch now is just acting like nothing happened.
Right.
I love what you said about the judge ordering them to release the warrant, whether or not it's legit or not is yet to be seen. But yeah, the DOJ just committed the most publicized raid in DOJ history. They haven't said a word. The White House is just ignoring it, pretending like it didn't happen. You had Karine Jean-Pierre playing dumb, saying, "Oh, what are you guys calling it? The raid on Mar-a-Lago? Oh yeah, we didn't know anything about that." They're just acting as if nothing happened.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think they're acting like they're like this? I think it's interesting that they're acting like nothing happened.
Now you really go down a conspiracy hole.
I'm just saying
they've dug a big enough hole.
I have seen. I saw. I forget where on Twitter, but someone was saying that the administration saw how this was very unpopular and is like putting out the word to like they were even calling him the Blue Anon, like Murphy, like, hey, tone down your touchdown dance in the end zone here, because this doesn't seem to be very popular. So that could be one of the reasons why they just kind of want to ignore it, right? Because they've made the political calculation that this is kind of backfiring, right? This is like getting people to kind of come to Trump's defense, like me, right? Who I'm not really a Trump guy whatsoever, but I thought this was fucking ridiculous that occurred. So I might have something to do with it. Or go ahead, go for it. Go down the rabbit hole.
If you really want to go conspiracy, I mean, I think the Democrats want to run against Donald Trump again. I mean, Joe Biden has said he wants to run against Donald Trump again. Do you do something like this, intentionally stirring support for Donald Trump, especially among Trump supporters, in order to push Trump back to the forefront so you can run against Donald Trump again? Because I think nobody brings out Democrat voters like Donald Trump does. And I think they want to run against Donald Trump again. I think they're terrified of running against somebody like a Ron DeSantis.
I think the opposite. I think they're only saying that because it shows that we're going to take on the biggest, baddest guy. We beat him once, we could beat him again. I think there's more people, I'm not going to say there's more of a political party than the other, but I think there's more people now than ever that are willing to re-vote for Trump. If they were to get a second chance, there's definitely more people out there that would vote for Trump over Biden, and they 100% know that. So in theory, yes, to be on TV saying, oh yeah, let's run against Trump, I think that's all for show. Behind the scenes, they need to do everything they can to get this man out of their way. Otherwise, we are going to watch the death of a political party.
I do think they want him not running for president. They're scared of him. They don't like him. You know, I've compared it to it's one bad guy against another group of bad guys. And it's like, which bad guy is less bad, right? So like the ultimate villains don't want this other villain to win. That's the way I've compared it. I think maybe there's also could be something behind their kind of silence. Maybe they, you know, don't want to say the wrong thing now. Because maybe they did give this order, right? And if this comes back later on to have been, you know, some sort of justice comes back later on to prove that this was this huge conspiracy, politically motivated. Well, now you're culpable, right? Because not only did you order it, but you were out there tap dancing on people, you know, the MAGA's grave or whatever. So maybe that might have something to do with it too.
That's why I, from time to time, say we're winning. The Great Reset is dead. The Great Awakening has taken place because the establishment media, the left, these progressives, they've backed themselves into such a corner that anything they do now just red pills people, to the point that the White House has to tell Blue Anon people to be like, let's chill, people. They're not really liking this. Let's read the room. For the first time in the past 6-7 years, they're deciding to read the room of how people are reacting instead of just saying how people should react.
They have to reprogram the NPCs to pretend like they're a little bit more objective, right? That's how big of NPCs some of these people are. They have to be reprogrammed to be objective, but they're not really objective. They're just doing as they're told.
They're being objective as they're told to be objective.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
And you mentioned that they've backed themselves into a bit of a corner. I do think a lot of that can be attributed to Trump, in that they took the position early on of everything that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth is inherently evil. Yeah. So therefore, if he says something is bad, we must support it. So if Donald Trump comes out and says, hey, transgendering children is a bad thing, all of a sudden the Democrat Party now has to embrace that transgendering children is a good thing. And so I do think the fact that he came and he fought a lot of the culture battles and pointed out some of the insanity of the left, they created this box that he kind of built around them as well, of we must now embrace the most radical things in the world, because the things that Donald Trump is really saying, even though he may sound radical as he says it, really aren't that radical the majority of the time.
Right. I don't think those things are as popular as like the leftists would think they are. Right.
Yeah.
Or even just full. Like, we don't even have to go as crazy as, you know, transgender children. We could go as, you know, full blown socialism. It's not as popular as you know, the Bernie Sanders, Nina Turner, the squad make it out to be. It really isn't. What are you gonna say, Cap? Go ahead.
You know, a part of me, you know, the anon in me, the conspiracy theorist in me, I think part of this, Trump had a plan for this. I think he knew he was going to get raided. I think, you know, he set up some type of a trap
why he played
or something.
The WW1G, whatever the fuck song on that video.
Oh, I don't
James
care
Curry's
about.
like, look, they played the song.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, they're trying to rile you guys up. It worked.
That I don't care about. But I truly think that with this being such a surprise to people like Andrew Cuomo and you know, and the White House telling people to tone it down, I think they might have realized that they walked into a trap, seeing how unpopular this is amongst the normies and stuff. You know, I gotta believe he's the most hated man in politics, and this guy flies around the country and the world, you know, lives in his little
man. Trump or Biden's the most hated man?
Trump.
Okay.
Trump.
I don't know.
Well, the media will have you believe he's the most hated man, but Trump will show up to all these golf tournaments and stuff, and that's got to take millions of dollars in security and stuff. I have to believe he is prepared to some extent, because let's be real, there's people out there who would want to kill him, assassinate him. There's probably been foiled attempts to assassinate him when he was president.
This week that the next step, if this one doesn't work, is assassination. That's a former chief of New York City Police Department.
Yeah. So I have to believe that this man is prepared on a certain level, and not imagining that the corrupt organization of the FBI raiding him wouldn't be one of the things that they would turn to do kind of seems like it's a giant oversight. Let's take conspiracies out of it. Like, the guy's got to be prepared for anything.
His team was clearly prepared because they dropped that pseudo campaign video within an hour of the news being released of the raid. And so that immediately got the attention of every Trump supporter across the country, basically.
Yeah. You see, so you're all along the lines of me, right? Like, they know exactly what they're doing. They know that this was not popular, and they're going to, like the Trump administration, the campaign is going to milk this to rally the base, right? Of course, I would too if I was running for president and this crazy shit happened to me. It doesn't mean it's always funny to me, like, oh, it's part of the plan tomorrow, like, whatever, tomorrow's going to happen, trust the plan. It's like no, something happens and then you spin it to your advantage, right? That's what people do. That's exactly what's going on, and you'll do that whatever the best way is. That's at least the way I look at the whole thing.
I would love to have seen Donald Trump's reaction when he was told that they were raiding Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure he just ate it up. I'm sure he laughed and he was like, oh, this is the greatest thing that could possibly happen to me.
He would know that it wasn't going to go over well, wasn't going to be popular at all. I mean, everybody said it the exact same time on Monday night. If they don't have anything on him, this handed him the 2024 election. Hands down, there's no coming back from it.
Yeah, it's gonna be in my opinion, definitely like a severe snap backwards in the opposite.
Everybody he endorsed in Arizona just dominated. An entire state went red in the primaries. You know what I mean? Like, there's writing on the wall. Do you know what I mean? These political forecasters. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Alex, what do you think about the upcoming election in November? What are your predictions to what's going to occur here?
I think the Republicans will definitely take back the House. A month ago, I would have said definitely the Senate too. I am afraid that some of your more Trumpy candidates that did win in primaries across the country might not play as well in general elections. So if I had to bet, I would still bet on the Republicans taking the Senate, but I'm not as confident in it now as I was pre-primary.
What do you think about Liz?
Just kind of to be clear, with my whole stance on Trump, and I do this every time I have a conversation about him, my stance on Trump is that I like him, but I don't love him. And because I do believe that once you start loving any politician, you stop seeing any
flaws. Let down. Yeah.
And I do believe that there are some certain inherent flaws when it comes to Donald Trump. So that's kind of my stance there. And I do believe that some of the candidates that he has endorsed, and for example, Amendment Oz would be one, I don't think plays great in general elections. So could he still win and Republicans take the Senate? Sure. But I'm less confident now than I was a month ago.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% there. I hate the cult of personality that comes with sometimes politicians, and Trump has that, right? You'll see people with the flags up their house and the cardboard cutouts in their living room and things like that. I mean, it's bizarre. These people are supposed to be, I mean, at the end
they're
of the
supposed to be our employees.
Your employee, right? They're really not, right? That's a lie.
Yeah.
So it is just a bizarre thing that humans do. Like
it is, but there's
an inherent need
almost
of humans to worship or follow.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that has something to do with it.
That's the playing field now. I would love to see, more this unknown hero step up. But I mean, as of right now, we can only play with the characters that are on the board. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, with everything that's going on, Ron DeSantis is a great opportunity here. But let's be real, look at the landscape, look at the other players on the board. There's no way, unless Trump hands it to him, is he gonna
2020.
Oh, I'm totally with you.
Yeah.
There's a reason Ron DeSantis hasn't announced, and it's because he's waiting to see what Donald Trump does.
Of course.
If Donald Trump says that he's not running, Ron DeSantis will run the very next day, and he will win the Republican nomination and most likely the presidency too. But if Donald Trump says he is running, then I think Ron DeSantis takes a step back because he doesn't want to get a lying Ted nickname. And he says, you know what, you go win the presidency again, I will wait my turn.
Yeah. And it only will be 4 years, right? So we'll see.
6 years from now, but yeah.
Right. All right. So let's end it up with the tweets of the week, Cap. I know you got a couple this week, right? You got 3.
I got 3 this week because I only had 1 or none last week. So
that's okay. It was a quiet week. So we'll start with one of yours. I already burned one of mine when we brought up Cuomo earlier. So
My apologies.
It's okay. Go ahead.
I think they're all from the same. Oh no, they're not from the same person. All right. So GOP chairwoman, the Biden administration condemns sending illegal immigrants to DC or New York City, but does nothing to help the overwhelming small towns and border states that have been pleading for help since he took office. This is by far one of my favorite side political quests that we have just entered, of this genius idea that Abbott is just shipping illegal immigrants to all these blue cities and states, and the governors are having meltdowns. Eric Adams today or yesterday said he is going to start shipping immigrants back to Texas. That this is his big plan. They're just going to ping pong.
It's not a bad plan,
people.
right? Because it's working. So
yeah,
they'll just be trading. They'll just be trading Greyhound buses back and forth.
Fucking ridiculous. This is one of my favorite little new political side quests right here.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it kind of exposes that Democrats really don't give a shit about illegal immigration.
Yeah.
In some sort of moral, social justice way. No, they really don't. It's just a political tool.
All virtue signaling.
Yeah.
Alex,
I'm trying to pull up this article, but I accidentally clicked a San Francisco 49ers article. Here it is. This is what you were talking about with Mayor Eric Adams. The headline on Fox is New York City Mayor Adams suggests busing New Yorkers to Texas to campaign against Abbott for the good of America. So he's just wanting to send regular old New Yorkers down to Texas solely to campaign. I mean, it is preposterous.
Chris, get on one of those buses.
I'm down.
They might stay there in Texas, right? They're not going to want to come back to get a taste of freedom in Texas culture. All right, let's go on to our next one. Let's see. Oh, I got it. This one's mine. So the Biden administration promised the middle class student loan forgiveness and then gave them 87,000 new IRS agents instead. LMAO. Yeah, man. I mean, look, I don't think student loan forgiveness. I used to think it was a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea anymore. But that is pretty funny how he did run on student loan forgiveness, right? And he has not done any of that. So he hasn't even appeased his, hardest left supporters. Instead, you're getting 87,000 IRS agents that are going to come after you for your loans and your taxes and all that shit. It's quite, antithetical to what he's promised.
I mean, we could do a whole nother episode on student loan forgiveness. Economically and morally, it's a terrible idea. I mean, just morally, it's the idea of your lower and lower middle class basically funding the education of the upper class, which is supposed to be antithetical of the Democratic platform, but I don't necessarily know.
That's a left-wing wet dream right there.
Yeah, we could go on to that. We'll be here for hours, though. This is your next one, Cap. Let's go.
All right. From Nick Adams. If men are from Mars and women are from Venus, I assume those other genders were pulled out of Uranus.
He's not wrong.
I just found that one hysterical when I read it. Not all of them need to be, serious topics. It's just, if something, tickles your fancy. Isn't this Como?
My last one now. Great day for a barbecue, New York. And for those of you who are listening, here is Kathy Hochul holding a raw hamburger up with a spatula. I mean, this is this is lizard person shit right here, right? This is so forced. Look at this grill. This looks like they just pulled this out of the trash or something. I don't know, man. Like these are all raw. These hot dogs they have up here. This is obviously a staged. I need to appeal to like the working class person in New York State that's barbecuing this weekend, right? So here you go. Here's a raw hamburger.
Her face seems there's some like, oh, Nigel Thornberry from the Thornberrys, whatever. That's what she looks like. Right. From that old cartoon of the girl who talked to the animals.
Interesting. It's going to be interesting to see if she wins or not, because in my opinion, that's the biggest, like, it just doesn't matter in New York. They could put anybody in the seat.
Well, that's why I think I'm still on my, monkeypox is an emergency in New York. So we could do mail-in ballots because they just can't allow New York to go red. But I don't even think there's enough.
You guys haven't gotten your vaccine for monkeypox yet?
No.
Well, what are you doing, boys?
Yeah.
I'm hanging out with them. All right. Let's we got one more, Cap, here, right? This is the last
Yes, sir.
All right.
Well, I remember this one. Okay. This one was shocking.
Oh.
Shocking. outside of Jesus dying for our sins, Donald J. Trump is the single greatest gift to all citizens of the world. Holy mind-blowing shit, bro. Holy shit.
I love seeing comments underneath. The Libertarian Party of New Hampshire. Many in Yemen and Syria would disagree.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a Trump supporter. I wouldn't mind, voting for Ron DeSantis or Rand Paul or Jim Jordan. But wow, that's an impressive tweet to go out on.
Yeah. I don't know. Nick Adams, who is this guy? Best-selling author, endorsed by President Trump, president of One Flag USA, presidential employee, Australian by birth, American by choice. All right. He likes Trump a lot. I mean, yeah, that's bizarre.
Yeah.
I know a lot of.
A lot.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, and that comes back to the infatuation with Trump that you guys were talking about earlier, which is not just Republicans that do that. Democrats did the same thing with Barack Obama, put him up on a Christ-like pedestal.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's a bizarre thing. It really is weird. I think it's bad. Without a doubt, it's bad. Putting these people up in some sort of religious position. It makes
St. Fauci save us all.
Right. Remember that? Oh my God. Yeah. How bizarre that was. Yeah, man. So it was interesting. It was fun. Alex.
Good episode.
Yeah.
That was a blast.
We will be ourselves, like we're saying, in Tennessee. So maybe we'll see you there.
Hit me up. Y'all have me on Instagram. What you said, Labor Day weekend?
Yes.
We'll be there for a bachelor party, so it might be a little bit wild.
Okay, there's a big free concert downtown that weekend if you're music people at all.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's a party and drinking involved, we would probably be there.
Yeah. We'll see. We
live
might be
on the green.
bringing,
It's a big Nashville concert.
Okay. We might be bringing the stuff with us too down there, so we might be doing something live on location.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see.
We were talking about that.
Yeah, it's in the works.
All right. So, Alex, thank you so much for coming on, man. It was great talking to you. It's great listening to you. Please shout out everything you want to shout out. Tell people where they could find you. This has been great, man. Thank you.
Oh Lord, let's see. I mean, on all the socials at TN Anchorman, of course, the podcast is the big thing right now. And again, we separated out into two separate podcasts. So if you're not from Tennessee, you don't have to listen to all the Tennessee stuff. You just search my name, Alex Abernathy, in your favorite podcast app. Both of them will pop up right there. One is labeled National Broadcast. One is labeled Tennessee's Anchorman. Clearly, you probably want the National Broadcast.
Last question for you. When did you start your podcast?
Oh, so I started it in, I heard you guys talking to Janet about this in the last episode. I started it in 2020. Started it in 2020 more so soon after Rush Limbaugh died, because I knew there was going to be, this sounds terrible of me, but I knew there was going to be an opening on the airwaves. And so I started it to kind of pitch it to the radio station. And then eventually that's how I wound up landing the radio show.
Okay. Yeah,
hey, I mean, that's smart. There was going to be an opening.
That's the free market, right? The law of supply and demand.
Yeah.
There was supply and you're there to meet it. So I always find it funny
awful, but that's how it happened.
Yeah, I just find it funny how it seems like we're in 2020. Every single human being on the planet seemed to start a podcast.
Yeah.
So it's a little funny point, but yeah, man, thank you for joining us. It was fun. I really do appreciate what you do. You're a very smart guy. I've learned a lot from you as well, and I think it's a really cool concept that you have there, doing like half local, half national, and definitely doing a service for your community.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate it so much.
All right, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you for coming on. Doom Nation, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. As always, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Adios.